You're listening to Ignite Your Success, a podcast that inspires fitness professionals to build a strong business that enables them to serve more people and engineer the lifestyle they desire. It's Brad Shepherd here, and together with Jason Ubanowicz, we're best known for running Trainer HQ, a community of passionate and profit-hungry fitness business owners that make a massive difference in others' lives every day. Each episode will unpack for you exactly what's working and deliver best practice strategies so you can confidently grow your business and make a huge impact. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Ignite Your Ultimate Success podcast. And today, I'm really excited because it's one of our success story features. And I'd like to welcome along Mr. Shaun Ahern. How you going, brother?
Good, mate. Thanks for having me.
Mate, it's my absolute pleasure. So we've got the matching sort of style. Those who can watch the video, we've got the same hairdo, and we've got a little bit of what they call the rust belt around the gob, haven't we, mate? You know.
We do, but I've got a bit of catching up to do, I think, mate. There's a bit of growth there that I haven't got.
I see we've both styled it too with a little bit of platinum in it as well, you know, just to...
Exactly right.
But mate, I'm really pumped about this interview because, you know, being part of your journey and watching your journey for so many years has been really exciting. So what we love to do in these type of episodes is to really, I guess, sort of paint the picture for somebody and go, hey, here's what somebody did in their time in the fitness industry. Here's what's achievable. And so we've got some really cool stuff to unpack. So I guess right from the start, let's double all the way back to when you launched in the fitness industry. So tell us about, you know, roughly what it was and how you got started.
Yeah, I suppose first out of high school, I was really looking at doing something with fitness, with health. I love my sport, love my basketball, my Aussie rules, all of those types of things. And yeah. I suppose the natural draw for me was to do something health and fitness related. I always loved all those subjects at school. And then I learned about going and getting a certificate for at TAFE here in Adelaide. So I went through and started that journey. And as a pretty green, young 19-year-old kid with what I thought was plenty of knowledge and absolutely no idea about how to actually sell myself as a personal trainer, I jumped into a large bodybuilding gym. Actually, it was one of the most successful bodybuilding gyms in Adelaide. So I was very much the young kid on the block and learning from people that have been there, done that well and truly before me. Yeah, and that's how I started my journey.
Hey mate, what year was that?
2000. So 1999, 2000, I started that.
Yep, gotcha. And so we're coming up to almost, I guess 25 years ago now.
Exactly right.
Yeah, yeah.
So some things have changed one hell of a lot along the way, and some things are still the same, that's for sure.
So, but you're a veteran, 25 years in the game.
Yep.
Yeah. So how was your first introduction to the industry in that first period?
Yeah, so I was in a commercial gym with 1,800 members. We were sort of one of the most represented bodybuilding gyms in South Australia. We had over 50 small group fitness classes in this big commercial gym as well. So I, within reason, had a pretty unlimited supply of personal training leads on the gym floor. This was back in the time, by the way, that there was the gym instructor on the gym floor. So I was getting paid 20 odd hours a week to work the gym floor, to write programs for new members, to do health assessments, skin fold testing, all of those types of things. That's now almost an obsolete thing.
Yeah. And such an important part. Like I think back to my experience as well. That's how you started. That's how you did your apprenticeship effectively, right?
Absolutely. And it teaches you how to talk to people and approach people on the gym floor and read people's cues if they wanted to be approached or not. So that was really invaluable for me in the start to learn how to engage with people on the gym floor. So with that model back then, I was probably earning income from a couple of different income streams in that I was an employee of the gym. So I was earning my 20 odd hours a week writing those programs and basically taking an induction for people through the studio.
Yep.
And around those dedicated shifts, I was then trying to recruit my own personal training clients. And that was just an arrangement with my boss at the time that he was happy to either do all of the pays with that and basically pay the gym directly. Or if and when I was ready, he said, look, I'm flexible with it. If you want to just pay a reasonable rent and then run your own thing, you can do that as well. So I was actually, especially looking back in hindsight, I was really fortunate to have the boss that I had at the time. He really allowed us to have the breadth of what we wanted to do in the studio, as long as we sort of stuck to everyone having a common purpose. He really gave us the freedom to do what we wanted to do and really dive into what our expertise were. So I was really lucky with that.
That's awesome. And how long were you in that sort of in that role for? Because you took a career turn, you might say, on that journey. Yeah.
So I started that in around 99, 2000. And then in 2006, or in 2005, the birth of my daughter inspired me to have a good hard look at my income and my stability and all of those types of things. And at that time, I was really probably upskilling my technical skills. So you name it, I've studied it, whether it's sports training, advanced rehabilitation, anthropometrics, all those types of things.
Yeah.
But I didn't respect and appreciate how much I needed to get into the business side of it. So at the time, I thought, look, I need to keep learning more stuff so that I become more valuable to be able to increase my fees. That was my thought process at the time. And when that wasn't happening, I was just burning myself out doing crazy hours, like many of your viewers will understand, getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and doing those early hours and then right through to 8 o'clock at night. And I loved the job, but I just had a guts full of the burnout. So in 2005, 2006, I went through the application process to get into SA Police. So I actually started with SA Police in March 2006. And I still had to hold on to the fitness industry a little bit through that whole time. So before I'd even started my first day at the police academy, I'd already gone and asked for approvals to have a secondary employment, just so I could train a handful of people on the side outside of those sort of commitments within the academy.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? So I guess a few things you mentioned there. First of all, the desire to want to keep upskilling technical skills, and hey, I'm a big advocate of it. You always got to perfect your craft, get better. However, it's a common, I guess, what we might say, misconception in that I just need to keep getting more technically better and better and better, and then magically all the business and all the clients and all the money is going to appear.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And that's where I was at. Like, I had absolutely no hesitation in taking people who had knee replacements, ACL injuries, bad backs, spinal fusions, been there, done that. But it's not helping the bank account and my way of living when I didn't know how to sell those skills that I had. So
yeah, 100%. And of course, the birth of your daughter, I guess you might have been thinking, all right, well, do I want to be there as well as part of my child growing up, as well as being able to supply financially and all those parts as well?
Exactly right. So that was actually a really big decision for me at the time, because that gym at the time was my second home. Like, my boss was my mentor, my best friends were at the gym, all of the other PTs, we had a really close-knit community there. So making that conscious decision to step away from that to go and get a safe, secure government income, it was a big choice that I had to make. But yeah, so I pivoted away from the PT world and joined SAPOL. So with that was a whole different world for me.
Whole new ball game. Different technical skills, eh?
Exactly right. Different technical skills, but something that Mr. Yubanowicz will still shake his head at with the lack of skills, I suppose, sometimes, compared to the people that he trains with. That's another story. So yeah, we basically went through the whole SAPOL thing. So I continued to work in the metro area and effectively policed the area that I was previously sort of working in the gym in my local neighborhood and things like that. So I was still able to duck into the gym and train a couple of people a week and do all those types of things. And then over that time, I suppose the police and being in that massive organization that is SAPOL, it wasn't too long down that track that I really started to feel quite suffocating in being in that big commercial machine that is a big government organization. So previously, probably part credit to my boss and part credit to just how I am naturally, I like to look at things outside the square. I like to look at effective ways to do things. And and bringing change and things like that.
Mm.
And with an organisation of 4,500 police and you're just one cog in the wheel, it doesn't work like that. So I was seeing a lot of efficiencies that weren't getting done, and just things
or reasonably inefficient.
Exactly right. So I just found pretty early on that I didn't really have the freedom to have that entrepreneurial flair, or to encourage new designs or new ideas within the system that I was working in. Loved going out and catching crooks and doing all those types of things, getting in high-speed chases, foot chases, all the rest of it. That was the fun stuff.
Yeah.
5 or 10 minutes of fun would then cost 6 to 8 hours of paperwork, like on the first sort of part of it, and then the follow-ups and whatnot. So it wasn't so much the fun active stuff that I was getting quite sick of. It was the bureaucracy and the red tape. There are a couple of other coppers that I know that are part of Trainer HQ as well, and I'm sure it doesn't really matter what state you're in. These types of things are very consistent. That a lot of the mental health stuff, it's all from that bureaucratic side rather than necessarily the trauma that we happen to see on the road.
Yeah, and it's a great point you make too. We've had a number of clients over the 17 years we've been running Trainer HQ who've transitioned from full-time employment, but namely, we then look at emergency services. We look at military, we look at police force, and we've had quite a number. And I guess it does. I guess you look at from the perspective of people that get attracted to police force and so forth. Usually, that kind of that active go-getter type of personality as well.
Exactly right. There's probably a lot of commonalities there between people that are attracted to the fitness industry and those emergency services for sure.
Yep. So when did you actually depart, and when was that transition time of then? Because you come to a point in time when you're like, all right, time for me to move on.
From SAPOL?
Yeah.
So I relocated with SAPOL from Metro Adelaide and moved up to the Barossa Valley. And I was really looking for that lifestyle change and let the kids growing up in that regional area and whatnot. And then soon after being here, I then decided to go part-time with the police. And that was a challenge in itself, but I managed to negotiate getting part-time. Yeah. And then that allowed me to then have 2 dedicated days per week that I could then start rostering in clients to then start training. Partly for my mental health of getting out there and getting back into the things that I loved, and using it as basically the first step in my launch pad to say see you later to SAPOL.
Yeah. And what year was that? Or roughly how many years have you been in?
Yeah, roughly 2016, 2017.
Okay, so you've been in for a good 10 years, put in a good 10 years of service there in a full-time capacity.
For sure.
Yeah.
And really, I was doing stuff at home at this stage. So I wasn't even back into a commercial gym. So it was just training a few people at home and out in the park and things like that. Yeah. And then as that was sort of happening, a couple of people decided to build the first Anytime Fitness in our regional area. Yeah. There's only a population of 20,000 people here in the Barossa, so it's not like the hustle and bustle where there's gym competitiveness everywhere. Yep. So the first Anytime Fitness opened up, and then soon after that, I thought, well, there's my opportunity to just get back into the environment that I'm most comfortable in, being in a more of a commercial gym. Yeah. And soon after that, I started the negotiation process of what a rental agreement might look like with them. Yeah, that's great. And meanwhile, you're still working in a part-time capacity. That's right. In SAPOL. Yeah. So, and then because I was around about that time that we would have met each other, sort of 2017, thereabouts, maybe. Roughly, yeah. Yeah, it was 2016, 2017. And I think I was still actually working full-time actually when I started to engage with you guys. I think I remember that. I think you might have even had some time off or something. You're like, all right, I got a little bit of period of time here. I can get in and put some stuff into place. Yeah. Exactly. And then throughout that coaching process, we put lots of steps in place to start getting that action happening again, to get back into the fitness industry full-time again. So it didn't take too long before my personal training days were actually earning more than my SAPOL days. Like, don't get me wrong, police do earn pretty good money. Yeah. But it comes with shift work and public holidays and all of those things that you're sacrificing those lifestyle hours for. But it didn't take too long at all to start building up that clientele to fill those 2 non-working days from SAPOL. And I was actually earning more in those 2 days than I was the rest of the week in SAPOL within a couple of months.
Yeah, it's fantastic, isn't it? And I mean, you're no stranger to hard work, and I mean, putting in the effort where required. So can you remember what that kind of looked like for you back then? Because I know you only had limited time. How many sessions, because you were doing mostly one-on-one sessions, what might a typical week look like back then?
I'd be kicking off at 6 a.m. and pushing through till about 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
And like most gyms, that quiet time between sort of 11 and 4 p.m. And then kick off again from 4 p.m. to 7:30 p.m.
Yeah.
Repeat the process again on the Tuesday. So I did that Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then that was just building my branding up and my awareness up in the community that I was available.
Yeah.
So I think filling up those first 2 days while I could live off of a slightly lower SAPOL income, that was probably the easiest of all of the steps.
Yeah.
It was just propping up my income back to where it was and some, with a little bit more branding exposure and things like that.
Yeah, that's great. So quite a busy weekend. So it would have been chock-a-block for the PT in those couple of days, back to full-time work, and then outside of that, of course, having a family and so forth.
Exactly right. So it was pretty chaotic most weeks, especially if I was finishing late on a Sunday night. I might knock off at midnight, and then I'm up and at 'em for 6 a.m. the next morning. So that were fun times.
And when was the time when you actually drew the line in the sand and put yourself in that position where you could leave that part-time employment?
Yeah, so 2019 it was. So I decided, right, that's it. I'm going to take a career break. So I ended up using all of my long service leave and did it at half pay, double the time, and really just stretched that out just so I had a little bit of supplementary income while I then just went balls deep, throw it in, get it done. And we just went flat out Monday to Saturday.
Yeah.
Tried to schedule my Sundays off still. And things were humming really well. So at that stage, I got 2 subcontractors working with me as well, just as a little bit of a supplementary income, and just to start looking at making the brand bigger than just me, and just trying to sort of spread it out there a little bit more. And everything was humming along beautifully. We were doing 2.5, 3 grand weeks.
Yeah.
I was still doing the lion's share of that.
Yep.
And then COVID hit.
Hey, what a time to be alive, eh?
Oh, it was great, wasn't it? So every state was obviously different in their experience with that.
Yeah.
But pretty soon on, all commercial gyms were shut.
Yeah.
They were still even quite nervous to allow people to train outside.
Yeah. And mate, be it in the Barossa Valley, we should note, picturesque part of the world, magic part of the world. I'm sure the COVID cases were like miles away, weren't they?
Exactly right. And population densities and everything, it just wasn't happening in the Barossa like it was everywhere else, but we still had to comply with all the legislation. So So basically, my business was pulled out from under me overnight. Even though I love all my technology and whatnot, I'm still a bit of a traditionalist in that face-to-face personal training and the value that provides with that immediate feedback with technique cues and motivation and those types of things.
Yes.
So I hadn't really invested too much into the online component of my business. So effectively, my business was hit the pause button instantaneously.
Yep.
At the same time, the commissioner of police at the time cancelled everyone's leaves of all types and directed everyone back to work.
Oh, wow.
So I was really, really lucky that I still had income that I could lean back on. So I'll never forget the date. It was April Fool's Day that I was sent back to work for SAPOL. So I continued down that path for a few months and sort of tried to engage in my PT community throughout that time.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that they knew, look, we're coming back. We're going to do these things.
Yeah.
So when we were allowed to, we did some outdoor stuff just to keep people engaged. And I lasted from April until November. And then in November 2020, I just said, that's it. I don't care what the COVID rules are anymore. I'm out. I'm done. I've had enough.
Yeah.
They were still trying to negotiate allowing me just to have some time off again and to get the ball rolling, but it became too difficult for everyone. So I sort of had that decision at that time. Well, if I want to take the island, I've got to burn the boats. So that was a massive shift for me to be able to just pull the pin and resign from SAPOL. But by then I was done.
Yeah, and you know, it sounds like also in some ways a bit of was it a bit of a daunting experience, or were there some challenges you came up against at that time?
Yeah, I think it sort of gave me a practice run pre-COVID that I knew, at least subconsciously, I knew that it would be successful. And even pushing through that pandemic and everything, people were still really keen to try and engage somehow. So that probably gave me the confidence to go, you know what, this time round, I think people are starting to recognize how we can better manage COVID, and gyms were opening back up and things like that. So that gave me the confidence to say, you know what, I can actually do this. I've had a practice run with my annual leave and that career break. Let's do it properly this time. So
yeah, that's great. And so as we record this, we're early 2024. So you've that finished at the end of 2020. So you've had 21, 22, 23 now. So what's happened in that time? So let's start to unpack that part.
So I was working in an Anytime Fitness. So they were good enough to bring me in as a rent-based personal trainer. And then throughout that time, I was then able to engage with 2 or 3 other subcontract personal trainers who actually had their own full-time jobs outside of personal training, and they were using that just as almost their mental health and their sort of get out of their
outlet.
Their outlet, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they were only looking for 5 or 10 hours a week as well. So it was a good balance for me to be able to have that supplementary stuff going on and start to build up that branding and awareness. Realistically, by the time I considered things like email addresses, domain names, uniforms, all of those types of things, I probably wasn't making much money from their subcontract, but it was really helping with that brand awareness and letting people know that we were there. So
and powerful brand, BVPT, Barossa Valley personal training. It's just strong concept, and definitely sends a strong message, that's for sure.
So within the Anytime Fitness, we were starting to build out some reasonable numbers. I was doing between 30 and 35 PT sessions a week. We were doing a couple of small group HIIT sessions and boxing sessions and things like that within the Anytime. With 2 or 3 other trainers on board as well. So we were definitely getting that message out. Then we had some personality things happening within the Anytime Fitness management crew and whatnot, and some other trainers there was some feathers being ruffled, whether it was a bit of a tall poppy thing or a bit of a jealousy thing going on, I'm not sure, but there were definitely some relationship strains throughout that as well, which is probably natural in business sometimes when people are sort of seeing things from different angles, and I respect that, and it is what it is. But throughout that process, I started to look at what my other options were, and rather than just being fixed in the idea of just being a for rent personal trainer in someone else's space, working with you guys as well, it was like starting to consider, right, well, what are my other options? So I started looking at renting other commercial places, including the large shopping centre that's here. They were asking sort of anywhere between Melbourne and Sydney prices for their shop spaces. So that was a very polite thanks, but no thanks. I started looking at some other smaller places as well. And it was just going to be smashing my cash flow and making that a real struggle. So
or I guess create a monster that needs feeding. So it's like expenses go right up. Hey, how many sessions do I need to do, or how many clients do we need to bring in to service this?
Exactly right. So really, it started to get me thinking outside the square again. And I can't sit still for long, and I'm always exploring new ideas and new things. But throughout that journey, I was actually speaking to one of my other clients who is a Pilates studio owner. She had a small shop front, and she'd well and truly outgrown her space. She had a 2-year waiting list for clients to join her community. And we started talking and just started talking the hypotheticals. Well, what if hypothetically we could find something and do it as a joint venture? Or what if we rented something together? Or so the what if started to come through. And then throughout that journey, I started talking with one of my other clients, who's the most prominent real estate agent in the area. Very smart man. And he pointed me in the direction of a vacant block of land that's actually on the main arterial road here in the valley. You would never believe the money that I ended up costing, but I think we got that at an absolute steal. And that was sort of the beginning process of building our own future and building our own security moving forward, rather than just paying for someone else's rent.
Yeah, phenomenal. I remember when me and you had the chat too, and you were like, yep, got this game plan, block of land. And I'm just like, oh, so good, man. It's the McDonald's formula, you know. Do they make great hamburgers? Well, it's debatable, but what are they great at? They're great at purchasing real estate, owning property, you know, increasing capital wealth through those means. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Yep. So when did all this come about? What roughly, when was the date stamp on that?
2022 was when we first looked at the property. So as I said, it's on the main arterial road within the Barossa Valley.
Yeah.
It was 1,300 square meters. So we're talking like a quarter-acre block.
Yeah.
$165,000.
I love it. Those people in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne are just like, you know, they're freaking out right now.
That was also ridiculously cheap here, don't get me wrong. The reason that it was so cheap is because on the block it had an easement. So the next door, we had to provide a shared driveway and a shared common access to the next door neighbour.
Yeah. And
just the fact of the easement being on the block, it was all too hard. So speaking to the real estate agent who was my client, it's just turning people away, and they just go, it's all too hard, it's all too hard. So they didn't bother even looking at it any further.
Yeah.
But when we've looked at it and gone, well, the council are going to require us to put a car park in anyway. So that easement is pre-designed where our car park's going to go. So that's one problem solved. So we've effectively picked up this block of land roughly half price to what the retail rates were at the time. Because we were prepared to look outside the box and look at trying to solve the problem of the easement rather than just saying it's all too hard.
Yeah, I love it. It's so good. And it's the first thing I learned when I went on my, you know, property expansion journey was the first bit of advice someone said to me, mate, you make your money when you buy. All right. So it's like everyone thinks you make the money when you sell. No, you make your money when you buy, because you buy at the right price, in the right conditions and so forth. And that's a great example of it.
Absolutely. So I didn't have 165 grand or even 82.5 grand because I was going halves. Didn't have that lying around. So there was a lot of planning and whatnot beforehand on how this was going to be funded and things like that. So one of the best things that SAPOL was able to provide me was a relatively aggressive superannuation fund. So the way that we ended up doing it was I transferred all of my superannuation from the police fund and transferred it into my own self-managed fund.
Beautiful.
Which effectively is a bank account. So I transferred 300 something grand over. The rules and whatnot of superannuation funds are actually really strict, and you have to make sure that you're dotting I's and crossing T's, and it has to be done exactly right.
Plenty of compliance in there. And
But presuming that we were doing everything correctly, it basically meant that we then had immediate cash to be able to fund our build. So my business partner, Kate, who had the Pilates studio, her and her husband did the exact same thing. So they had their superannuation fund, I had mine. And then we basically built a unit trust, or like a combined trust, out of those superannuation funds. And that trust became the owner of the building and the property. So we were basically injecting funds from our superannuation into that trust. And then that trust became the beneficiary and the owner of the building. So we basically built our own dream studios out of our own superannuation funds. So we didn't have to go and find loans or anything like that to actually do the build. And the beautiful thing about that is that part of that SMSF requirement is that we still have to pay ourselves rent. So I'm not sitting here rent free. We had to go and research what the going rate was for rent in the area. And legally, we have to pay rent back into that fund. But I'm paying it back to me. I'm not paying it to
it's wonderful. So there's a few notable points there, and those tuning into this, regardless of what stage in life you're at. So we have a lot of clients who come through Trainer HQ, you know, late teens now, early 20s, mid 20s, and so forth. And when's a good time to start talking about this stuff like super is now, you know, at any
Absolutely.
age, right? So you look at what that meant for you. Obviously, with SAPA, it was forced, which is fantastic, right? So that was
Yep.
part of that. However, for anybody, it's our strong recommendation that you set your finances up, and please just put a note in the comments wherever you're watching this. If you want some advice, this is what we do. We're not financial advisors, but what we can do is we can advise you on the basic structure on what you need to do. Now, could that be as simple as you putting away $50, $100 a week in super? Yes. Can you put that into some sort of portfolio that'll continue to grow and reinvest in itself? Yes. So that when you hit age, you know, I turned 50 this year. I think I've got a few years I'd use, Shaun. So
Yep.
it's like you've actually built up this amount, and then who knows what that's going to look like, okay? And whenever you're going to draw on that and who knows, maybe that might until you're 70, 80 or whatever. But look at what it meant for you, is you're able to really utilize that to your best advantage.
Absolutely. If I just continued on that path of the police super, it would still sit there and accumulate some interest in its maturity as it goes along. But then I wouldn't be able to access it until retirement age. So at least doing it this way, I can then use it to start building something that I want straight away. I've then got the real estate asset sitting there that's growing as I'm using it.
Yes.
And then who knows, in 5 years, 20 years, whatever time, if once I've had enough of the business and I want to sell my business, because it's now in a commercial building and it's got its own brand that's separate from me as a person, I can sell the business and still own the building and still continue to draw rent from it. So
it's awesome. I could talk all day about this. It definitely inspires me. So you also built the building, but right, so that was the next part.
Correct.
So when did that all take place, and how long did that take to build?
It took around 12 months from settling on the block to actually being able to use it and move in. So 23rd of January last year was our first day open. We probably got in a little bit early compared to what the council wanted us to do, but we were quite literally training under construction floodlights, and we had painter's tape and everything everywhere, and rather than trying to get it done perfectly, it was just, let's get it serviceable. We obviously have to make sure it's safe and things like that. I still didn't have gyprock on all the walls. I had insulation packed in. So we had the space safe, clean, all the rest of it. But the clients loved it. So rather than having this perfect product to then sell to someone, people that are coming in and feeling like they're coming in at the ground floor of our journey, they would love coming in and going, oh, cool, you've painted that wall today. Oh, I'll have a look over there. And they loved coming in to see the progress as well as it was coming along. So
it's awesome.
It's been a journey for them as well.
And it just goes to show the power of the community, right? So the BVPT community, it's like everyone feels like they're part of it, which is wonderful. So how much did the gym cost to build then, and what size is the gym?
So the studio itself? So we've got 225 square meters, I think it is off the top of my head. But that's over 2 levels as well. So we've got a mezzanine that sits up on top. Most of our equipment and whatnot's all downstairs ground level. I probably, in hindsight, did overcapitalize on all of my equipment. So we're talking 150 grand on everything, but that's from gym matting, mirrors, sound systems, equipment. We've also got a state-of-the-art spin studio as well, which is probably being underutilized and overcapitalized a little bit at the moment. But we decided did we want to compete with the other couple of bigger studios that have $900 bikes in there, or did we want to make a real point of difference and make it a bit of a crown jewel to the studio? So we've gone high-end Stages spin bikes, which is all the same gear as what all of the pro circuit guys use for all of their gadgetry and whatnot. People can come in and use that as part of their membership as well. And the system's amazing, so I'm proud of it, but I want to get it utilized.
Get more bums on seats.
Right. So 140, 150 to set up everything.
Yeah, that's great. So, okay, cool. So you launched and your model's changed a bit too. So do you want to explain a bit about the
Significantly.
type of model that you now run, and how that's shifted, I guess, your thinking?
Yeah. So when I was at Anytime Fitness, between speaking with my coaches and then watching some exercise physiologists in the studio, it was becoming quite apparent that the EPs weren't getting paid for a one-on-one. They were sharing their time in the gym. Um, and the trends that were happening a lot on the East Coast as well was moving towards semi-private personal training.
Yes.
So making that switch was pretty easy for me because we could control the comings and goings in the studio. It was our studio. We could do whatever we wanted. So our base membership now is a semi-private membership. So people can come into the studio on a 6-to-1 ratio, knowing that they're going to have a personal trainer there to help them and guide them through their program when they're coming in.
Yeah.
And with the booking system, depending on what time they're coming in, they might jag a one-on-one or a two-on-one PT session in those really busy peak times, rather than only being able to sell that personal training session once. We've now got 6 people per hour that we can then service.
Yeah.
And they understand that it's a shared time.
Yeah.
What it has done is really build a massive community. So the community feel was always my number one priority. I think it's much easier and much stronger to retain a member than it is to try and make another sale.
Yeah.
So our sense of community in the studio is really, really strong.
Yeah.
Anyone new coming in, everyone's saying good day to them, introducing themselves. And just a random thing that someone noticed the other day, they said, Shaun, no one ever wears headphones in here because everyone's here talking to each other and training and lifting and encouraging.
Yeah.
Yeah, long way around to answer your question, but yeah, we basically do a semi-private membership, which is pretty easy to sell when it comes down to it.
Yeah. And what does that actually mean for you now, comparing it to when you're running it out of the commercial gym? You're mostly, I guess, heavily exchanging time for money, doing sessions in a one-on-one capacity. What's it meant for you in terms of that difference in that exchange?
It means now that by choice, I'm now doing on average 6 contact hours per week on the gym floor. I could quite easily get rid of those 6 and give them to another trainer as well. But I think as the owner of the club, I need to still be in there and showing my face and guiding and helping as well.
Yeah.
And we're then offering another 50 hours of personal training per week shared amongst my team of 5 PTs. And the community loves it because they can jump on the app and just have a look through, and they can either choose which personal trainer they want to do through their booking, or just they love having that variety of different trainers as well. So frees up my time to be able to take my kids to school, to be able to then help out with the basketball clubs on a committee level and a coaching level, and sit at my kitchen table having trainer HQ interviews rather than training people on the gym floor.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. It really does follow the model of, earn more, work less, and really engineer the lifestyle that you want. So that's it's a huge congratulations to you for following that pathway.
Yeah, thanks, mate. It's definitely been a journey, but and it's something you got to work on. Like, if people think that it's just going to land in their lap, it's not. You've really got to go out there and fight for what system or whatever dream you have. You've got to push it.
Yeah, you join the VIP or exclusive club of clients of ours, our real high-level performers, Damian Brown, Brooke Cutts, Victoria Loney, who have gone on those steps of create the business, build the business successfully, get it to the point of warranting a facility, purchasing the facility, so that it's taken that just to that next level. So you not only just own the business, you own the building, and you've got yourself an asset that's appreciating in capital value every year. Plus you're the landlord, plus your business is paying you off, and it's eloquent. It just ticks the box on so many levels.
Yeah, definitely a lot of hard work to get it started. And even though I'm only doing 6 PT hours per week at the moment, it's still nose to the grindstone, and there's still a lot of work that's happening behind the scenes. But this grind now is, we've set up some very deliberate pathways now that in the future, it's really just going to set us up to be living a little bit more comfortably.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. And I mean, you've been around us for quite a number of years, been on the Trainer HQ program, been to many of our events and so forth. So how is like being around this type of community, and how has it impacted you on this journey?
I've been on a couple of coaching programs, and I think that the first time around was really good in helping me set up systems. I kind of knew, I need systems and whatnot, but that's all right. I can just negotiate on whatever. But there's so many things that fall through the cracks when you don't have that system set up. And I'm a massive one now for systems and having set procedures in everything, whether it's just lead generation or the way that I walk through a new lead to convert them and things like that.
Yeah.
So that first year was very much establishing that and making sure that my systems were set beautifully. The end of year events, the Inspire, if people are even considering going and getting on it, just do it. Like, even if nothing else, it's rubbing shoulders with like-minded people, picking your energy back up, especially at the end of the year when it's been potentially a tough slog for a lot of people, and just to be able to rub shoulders with everyone and say, hey, great year, I've seen you do this, I've seen you do that. And just networking with those like-minded people, I don't value it enough. It's amazing. And then the second time round, currently working with Benny D. He's been around the blocks a long time. He's got his own studio, so he's been there, done that. So because I've already got my systems and whatnot set up, it's more about, hey, Ben, what do you think about this idea? Or Shaun, have you thought about this idea? And it's really just like that, bouncing ideas off of each other. So there's value in it both ways, whether it's helping to set up those systems or just spitball different ideas with people.
Yeah, it's so good. Hey, like it's on so many of those different levels where you got your own personal coach, so you got someone from on a day-to-day basis. Because what you see in business is a lot of professional loneliness. It's like, okay, I'm out there, I'm wearing all the hats, I'm doing everything myself, and it's like having that person that you can have on a daily basis that you can reach out to. But I agree with you, when you get around those bigger events, you got the community at large, you got all the various coaches, you got all the various clients, and just people with a shared vision. You know, they genuinely want to see everybody else succeed.
Absolutely.
And just like you're doing today, is they genuinely want to share their experience and their story, because it's like, hey man, I've been there, I've done it, and let me, through me sharing this, I can potentially help you get there as well, and potentially in a shorter space of time as well. So
absolutely, yep. And everyone's in a different stage in their journey, and everyone's remembers feeling that win when they've reached that journey as well. I only saw on the VIP page this morning there was a couple of comments of people reaching milestones and things like that, and it's amazing to see, and everyone getting around that win as well.
Yep. Phenomenal, man. I'm super impressed. That's why I said I was really looking forward to this one. And just more importantly, like I was saying, your openness and your ability to share your wisdom, your life experience, and the fact that you've been there, you've done it, and so it's a real testament to the effort that you've put in. So, mate, a huge congratulations, brother.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Still a long way to go yet, but we'll get there.
It's a thing, hey, when you're in business, there's like, you hit these achievements and milestones, and it's like, all right, there's always that next bit. And, so if you might be sitting there at the moment going, all right, I need to pump up this cycle studio, right? So that's exactly right. That's my next bit.
Exactly right. There's always something, whether it's that, getting more clients, trying to do an external event. There's always something you want to do. So
and it's a thing too. You've literally just tipped over on just past your first birthday, right? So
correct.
You've been in the game for a long time, but really this business and this version of it is 1 year old. So
that's right. Yeah, you just keep trying to reinvent yourself.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, man. Thanks, Shaun, mate. I really, really appreciate it. And, mate, wishing you all the best success. And, of course, we'll continue our relationship on for many years to come,
Absolutely, man. And looking forward to seeing you guys all in December as well for the end of year, or November, December.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, mate.
See you, mate. Bye-bye.